you have any questions, can you sort of stick your hands up and plenty of time to...
Hey guys, so it's a question for blindly. If you were given the opportunity, Livio, to work on the More Than Meets the Eye, and you can influence the choice of character for that issue, Nick and James, you've been given an issue of autocracy, and you're allowed to choose which characters to focus on for that issue. Which would you choose from the respective comic?
Me, as soon as I heard about the concept of the DJD, I thought that was such a great idea that I immediately was like, I wish I would have been able to draw that. Just that idea sounds so cool to me, you know, and it feels so natural, even though it hasn't appeared before. But I think that's such an awesome Decepticon concept. So, but sure, good job. But yeah, we probably feature those guys with some similarly nasty things. James' imagination. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for Hot Rod, and so I probably would. It's so obvious, it's so vanilla for me, but I'm really territorial and sort of proprietorial about Hot Rod, how he should be and what he should do. And so if I get to sort of put my stinking thumbprints all over like his early history, I'd probably go back and do that. I don't know what I'd do with it, but being that he sort of features in that time frame, I think I'd like to sort of, you know, help nurture the young guy and stuff, and sort of be like a father figure to him. I love him.
I think I'd go for, I'd like to focus on some sort of pre-war or early war Decepticons, maybe the Seekers, or maybe something with Soundwave, and give them some love. I think that period, sort of chaos theory, autocracy, and the space in between, which maybe we'll be returning to, that's really interesting in terms of how the Decepticon movement, you know, matured and became a progressively more serious threat. And it's really, I think it'd be fascinating to see some of the journeys that some big name Decepticons or some minor Decepticons took, you know, during that period. And whether, you know, Megatron started off as sort of as a pacifist, and then, you know, the methods for achieving his goals changed. And you know, I don't think it's not the case that every Decepticon that fell into line behind him would have started off as sort of, you know, as a ruthless killer or whatever. So I think I'd look at that area, that side of things.
Hi. This might be a future plot point, but in issue 6, Chrono is in the bar and he's having a drink. How does he drink it?
How does okay, so obviously he injects orally, you were saying, right? He's got a little curly straw as well. Alex added a little curly straw, and there's pages and pages of concept art for the curly straw that Alex did, because that's how seriously he takes it. But I think that there's a 6-part More Than Meets the Eye storyline coming up, which really explores the oral aperture aspect of Chrono's character. But it's good. I mean, I'm understanding it. It's really exciting. But I think the answer is that some things are best left unexplored.
Something I was thinking of when I was drawing the bar seat, because it's got chrome though, and it's got pipes, and Tailgate shows up for a pipe, and I was like, hang on, these guys have got the same face.
Nick will testify that I've got a real blind spot in the script when it comes to faceplates, and I'm always saying, you know, pipes, grins or something, and Nick's like, you do know who you're writing about here, do you?
His face is 2 parallel lines.
Livio, quick question for you. When you were working on Autocracy, because it was a digital only, obviously, but now in trade paperbacks it will buy it, but because it was a shorter page count, how did you feel that worked with your style, especially with just the standard rhythm of a comic book, as it progressively builds and builds and builds, but with that it was obviously doing it in 11 pages rather than 22.
Yeah, I mean, I think the screen time was like a lot more precious for every chapter we had. You know, there was really no like wasted panels. We really tried to put everything important into those shots. I think Chris and Flynn were really good about that. Like, they were really economic in their storytelling. So I think we really, one thing I liked about the way they started each chapter was it was kind of like an Indiana Jones film or a Star Wars film, where the beginning of the chapter is in the middle of something they're doing. You're kind of catching up to them on an adventure, and I like that a lot. I felt like, you know, and running each time. And I think, you know, in digital, we still just want to tell a really good story first. You know, the actual medium was secondary. We really just want to make sure that it was good to read. You know.
Livio, we were talking a bit yesterday in your panel there about autocracy and the current sequel Monstrosity. Obviously that's all set before what we're seeing in More Than Meets the Eye, but maybe out of that, what do you feel is going to happen with Monstrosity? What story arcs are we going to see there? And then for James, Shadowplay looks back into Cybertron history. Might there be some overlap there, or where are we going with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Monstrosity picks up a little bit after Autocracy, and you kind of see Optimus Prime, as he's now Optimus Prime, trying to kind of govern a very divided population, you know? And I think we've kind of said like Autocracy was this personal journey for Optimus Prime, and the sequel is a personal journey for Megatron. And like Flynn said, that he's going to go through hell in the sequel, and that's very much what his journey is. You're going to kind of see him, his principles tested the same way that Optimus Prime was tested in the first one.
Yeah, Shadowplay is a three-part story starting with issue 9 of More Than Meets the Eye. It's the longest, the biggest one we've done so far. I was being interviewed yesterday, and I still think of story lengths in terms of TFUK, so it's like a 6-parter really, sort of 6 11-page episodes. So Shadowplay is set, it's after Chaos Theory, but before Autocracy. So it continues to map out that sort of that chronology, that lead up to war. Orion Pax, as he still was at the time, Orion Pax is front and centre of Shadowplay, but it's a story which really attempts to intertwine the Chaos Theory characters and era, and you know, political background and so on, and life as it is lived on pre-war Cybertron. It attempts to mesh that with very much the here and now on board the Lost Light. It's told in the form of a story. Rewind is recounting a tale on the Lost Light, which brings into play a number of characters on the Lost Light, and some other characters too. And it's about fleshing out both that pre-war era, which I'm very interested in still, and certainly furthering More Than Meets the Eye storyline too.
This is an overly specific question for James. In the last couple of years, Hasbro have been sort of trying to create this aligned continuity. We'll see it through the board for Cybertron, the video games, the novels, the Prime cartoon, where we've got Megatron as this charismatic freedom fighter, and Orion Pax is like a civil servant who gets swayed by his words and by his converting his message. We've got a Ratchet who is growing older, and these are things that I've noticed have started to appear in the IDW universe through your work. And I was wondering, is that complete coincidence? Is that a Hasbro mandate? Is that you choosing to bring those elements in after seeing them in the items?
Yeah, the quick answer is, I'll expand on it, but the quick answer is it really is coincidence. Yeah, you're right, Hasbro are crafting an aligned continuity, as you say, with pretty much everything outside of the IDW universe. But from my position, as far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been any attempt to bring the IDW universe into line, so to speak. That's left to go its own way. And you know, hands up, once I step outside of the comic universe and the IDW universe, I don't know much about what's going on elsewhere. I'm sure it's brilliant, but I haven't read the Exiles and Exodus books, and I don't really follow the TV series either. So it's news to me that if there's a grumpier version of Ratchet out there, didn't know that. In More Than Meets the Eye, he was grumpy because his hands were dying essentially, and there's a theme in More Than Meets the Eye, and it's very prominent in Shadowplay about the concept of alt mode and sort of why what does it mean to have an alt mode culturally, certainly in pre-war Cybertron, and how does that place you in society, and how intrinsic to you as a character is what you turn into. And so with Ratchet, a bit of foreshadowing in terms of Ratchet's journey early on in More Than Meets the Eye, his hands, which he was, quote unquote, born with, were reaching the end, you know, even through overuse. And so that was bringing him down because he thought, you know, what is the point of me beyond that? So yeah, that's where the grumpiness came from. The Prime Megatron thing, and I was surprised when I heard about you know, Prime as a civil servant and Megatron sort of being a more idealistic character. And I thought, oh, damn, you know, that's eerily similar to Chaos Theory. But yeah, it was